Welcome to DFS Karma, where we talk about our favorite fantasy sports plays for football, basketball, baseball, and pretty much everything else. Be sure to check out and create an account with all of our partners, such as MonkeyKnifeFight.online, PrizePicks.online, and StatHero.online. Use the promo code KARMA on any of these sites to get an exclusive deposit bonus. And don't forget to check out all of our free fantasy content on DFSKarma.com, as well as our own premium plays. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Please welcome today's hosts.
What is up, Karma Nation? Welcome into another edition of NBA Live for Monday. I believe it's the 24th. I don't actually know. I will be your host, Bales. Ben is not on today, so instead we brought the prop king himself, Joey. If you don't know Joey, he is pretty good at monkey knife fights. So we figured we would bring him on for the DFS to talk a little bit about it. And I mean, it's actually a surprisingly good 8-game slate for a Monday. Usually we don't see this type of thing until like Wednesday. So what are your overall thoughts on the slate before we actually get into anything major?
Well, I always like it before all the injury news comes out. So it doesn't look like a ton of chalk right now, but I'm sure it'll become chalk central, especially on FanDuel in about 2 hours or so. I'm sure someone's going to get ruled out. We're just going to have some mega chalk.
Yeah, that's nightly with NBA at this point, just because everyone rests players. It's just honestly kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. So we will get into it, and I will just start out with the injury news, which Ben always does. So hopefully I don't miss anything major, but breaking it down, we have Jimmy Butler out again tonight. Tyler Herro's out too. Myers Leonard obviously is going to miss a couple games. Kyle Korver is out for the next few games, which I feel like bumps George Hill a little bit, but I wouldn't say anything major. Brooke Lopez, which obviously helps his twin Robin. Thomas Bryant is out while Davis Bertans is questionable. So Bertans being out could really change the slate a little bit for Washington. Ben Simmons has already been ruled out. Tobias Harris was ruled out last night, I believe, but then they switched him this morning to game time decision. So we really need to keep an eye on him, because if he gets ruled out, it'll basically just be Philly chalk again tonight, as it should be. Outside of that, for New York, Frank Ntilikina has already been ruled out. Alfred Payton questionable. So keep an eye on him, because they only have limited point guards then. Moving down, I mean, we have Jalen Brunson out with Willie Cauley-Stein questionable, but Porzingis and Luka Doncic are both back, as has been the case of the last few games. Karl Anthony Towns is out again for Minnesota, but D'Angelo Russell will return to the lineup. And then Justice Winslow is going to miss a few games from Memphis. He's been out for a while, so it won't really matter. Jaren Jackson Jr. also is hurt, though. And then on the other side for the Clippers, Paul George is questionable tonight, so that's kind of late news, slate breaking news that could happen. And Patrick Beverley has been out for a bit, but he's questionable tonight. I don't believe I missed any major news, so we can just get started at point guard. Joey, let us know who you're looking at.
Probably there's a lot of 10K guys. It looks like we got 4 of them on DK tonight. Harden, Young, Doncic, and Westbrook. So you're going to have to decide between there. I'll probably lean Luka. Depending, Houston might be a blowout game, so we might not see full minutes. So you might not be able to trust Westbrook and Harden. Harden's kind of been slumping lately. So I'm probably paying up for Luka because he gets you all those peripherals, a nice safe floor. And you also have Dinwiddie, 7.7K, kind of medium price. Orlando kind of struggles, especially against scoring guards. I know Fultz is a pretty bad defender. Augustine's good, but he'll see majority of Fultz, I assume, this game. So I'm looking there with no Beverly. I think Ja Morant's a nice GPP play because the defense won't be as bad. So So those are probably my main two guys I'm looking at. I'll probably throw in Burks, but he's a little expensive. But without Ben Simmons, he's definitely in play at the point guard position. But that's probably my main guys right now until we get maybe some injury news. Not a ton is popping out for me, especially at the cheaper end, because it looks like most people are playing tonight.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, but honestly, for me in cash, it's pretty much going to be either Luka or Mike Conley. Conley's only 5,300, and he's going to play the 30 plus minutes that he's been getting, and he's been dropping 30 plus fantasy points like on a nightly basis. So I don't have any issues going there. Those are probably the only two that I'm really going to consider in cash, though. That leaves Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Guys like that are more expensive, Trae Young, as tournament options for me. I have no problems with any of them, really. Kendrick Nunn is only 5,600. He'll be locked into big minutes with Jimmy Butler out. He'll probably see a slight uptick in usage, too. So I don't have any issues there. D'Angelo Russell back in the lineup against Dallas, who really doesn't play very much defense, is a solid tournament option for me. I can't really go there in cash games, especially since he's almost 9K. And then if you're looking for cheaper options, D'Anthony Melton has been playing around 25 minutes, and he's boom or bust, where he can drop 40, but he can also drop 5. That's a fine tournament play. And George Hill at only 3K, as long as he's getting 20 to 25 minutes, he actually has been playing well on a per minute basis. So I don't really mind that either. That's it, I believe, for point guard. I feel like shooting guard's pretty much wide open at this point. I feel like there might be one or two guys that basically everyone could lean towards, but I don't think that you have to go anywhere specific. So what are you looking at shooting guard?
There's a guy I want to fade. Definitely, it's Bradley Beal. I know he's going to have a ton of usage, but I could see him sitting out the whole fourth quarter because with no Bertans, Washington really has trouble keeping up with these really good teams. He can come in and save a blowout for Washington. I've seen it multiple times where he just drops 3 threes in a row and gets them back into the game. So I'm definitely looking. I mean, I could see him getting some ownership just because the pace that Milwaukee plays, and really, no Bertans means Beal's going to have to score more, but I could easily see this game getting blown out. And even Giannis and Middleton, I could see fading those guys just because of that blowout. That's a risk I'm going to take. Hardaway, I'm definitely fading with everyone back, and he's 7K. But the guy I'm looking at for GPPs is Donovan Mitchell against Phoenix. It's a bad defensive team, and he'll be lined up against Booker probably most of the game. And Booker's not the best defender, so he's gonna, even with Conley there, it's gonna take some usage away. But so I wouldn't play him in cash. But I like the ceiling. Just the floor is way too low for me for a cash play. But I definitely like for a GPP. Seth Curry is interesting just because Brunson's out, but at 5.4K, this floor is not really there unless he's dropping a lot of points. With Luka back, it's kind of tough, but with Brunson out, he's probably going to play a little more minutes, but nothing worth it in cash. And then I mentioned Burks. You can play him in shooting guard as well. And that's probably what I'm looking at right now. And probably Korkmaz, just Ben Simmons out. We might get Harris out as well. And Atlanta's really bad defensively, and especially on DK where you get that 3-point bonus. You could drop 20 plus points in a 4K. That's definitely worth it against a bad Hawks team.
Yeah, I don't really have any issues there. Outside of guys that I already said, like Kendrick Nunn or D'Anthony Melton at shooting guard or at point guard, I feel like the two shooting guards that really stick out to me are Josh Richardson. Obviously, if he's just locked into big minutes, he's only 4,800. And we know that he can play well when they give him the opportunity, which if Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons are both out, I mean, realistically, he's going to have to play a bigger part in the offense. And Malik Beasley, as long as Karl Anthony Towns is out, Beasley is probably seen as the number 2 option behind D'Angelo Russell. I don't care that Russell's back, truthfully. I don't think it's really going to affect Beasley. We saw Russell didn't play in his last game, and I think he had like 13 shot attempts or something. So I don't really think that his shot is dependent on whether or not Russell's in the lineup. So I have no problems with Beasley. At 6K, he's starting to price himself out. But I see him dropping 30 plus against Dallas again. And then if you want to go a little bit cheaper, Eric Gordon is only 3,700. And I know that he's not really a top option, but he's going to play minutes in the mid to high 20s. He gets a solid matchup against New York, who struggles defensively. So I mean, as a player that's really dependent on scoring and under 4K, I don't really mind Eric Gordon in cash games if that's the route you want to take. I don't necessarily think he's overly consistent though either. So I feel like shooting guard isn't as safe as point guard in my opinion. I feel like you can get guys that make solid cash game plays tonight, but I just don't think overall it's as safe. I do pretty much agree with your Bradley Beal assessment. If you didn't see him when he dropped over 50 against Chicago and they still lost, he was just sitting on the bench with like his head down. He looked so mad. So I don't really think that he wants to play for this Wizards team at the moment. When you go up against a tough team like Milwaukee, it just doesn't really make sense to pay almost 10K for him. We got a comment that says "Smile, Joey." So give the fans what they want, a little bit of smile. We can move to
smile.
Yeah, we can move to small forward. So just go ahead and give us who you're looking at here.
For small forward, I mean, if Paul George gets ruled out, he's questionable right now. Kawhi Leonard's probably a lock tonight for me. Going against Memphis, in a great pace-up spot, and with no Paul George, Kawhi is always a lock for me. Even 9.7K, that's enough for me to still lock him in. Definitely avoiding Middleton, like I said, with the blowout. So where I'm probably looking at other than that, you got who was it? Where was it? Lost it. Troy Brown's interesting for me just because of that blowout. He'll play those blowout minutes, and with the pace, I could see him getting a nice boost. I'm more of a GPP player right now just because most of my cash volume's in props. So I'm mainly looking at GPPs, and Troy Brown definitely sticks out. His floor is obviously very low, but I love his ceiling tonight with a potential extra run. And I'll always love running as long as he's still cheap enough. Andre Iguodala, I got him last time at 3% or something like that. And he's been getting around 20 points. Last game, he had a real bad game against Cleveland. So we might get some recency bias and still get him at 1 or 2% owned. So he's definitely a great leverage play I'm looking at. And then I think Dylan Brooks is small forward, right? Yeah. Dylan Brooks I love just because Jaren Jackson's out. That leaves a lot of scoring for Brooks to open up. So I might throw Brooks in as one of my main guys tonight especially if Paul George gets ruled out, then this game should stay closer for sure. And with the pace and losing two defensive players like Beverly and Paul George, this game should be a nice high scoring game tonight.
Yeah, I like that call. James said Duncan Robinson. I actually don't mind Duncan Robinson. He's another player that's getting to the point where he's pricing himself out at 5K, especially for cash games. But I think against Cleveland, you can definitely use him in all leagues, basically, if you need to save. Outside of that, I feel like Robert Covington is a solid cash option here. Just the matchup against the Knicks is nice. He's going to be playing big minutes. You can use Eric Gordon here. Another cheap guy is Josh Jackson. With Jaren Jackson Jr. out, Josh Jackson's going to be forced into like 20 to 25 minutes. We saw him play 23 in his last game. He dropped almost 25. He played well in the game before that too. So it's tough for me to say you can go Josh Jackson in cash games, but realistically, this isn't my favorite cash slate at the moment. But I mean, he's cheap enough that he's not going to destroy your teams. Outside of that, Bojan Bogdanovic makes sense. I like him more in tournaments. Karis LeVert, I have absolutely no problems with. I don't really like targeting teams against Orlando, but they haven't been as dominant defensively, and their pace isn't so slow that you should just avoid them. Rubio against the Jazz. Yeah, I mean, in tournaments, I have no problems with that. Rubio's the kind of guy that has the potential to triple double. He's not really at the top of my list tonight, but I do think that you can use him if you just want to take a shot in a tournament there. Like you said, if Paul George gets ruled out, Kawhi Leonard will be the cash play here most likely, unless you're looking to save and go expensive elsewhere, which I don't think is a bad idea. But that's one of the reasons why Josh Jackson and Eric Gordon are so appealing here, because they're so cheap and they'll let you spend up for Giannis and Luka if you want to do that. One other thing that I wanted to mention was, did you see Josh Okogie is now a power forward on FanDuel?
Yeah, I was really confused about that.
Amazing. They don't change some of their small forwards that clearly play almost all their minutes at power forward, but Josh Okogie after the trade gets moved to power.
Yeah, that was so confusing. 'Cause he was like a shooting guard eligible. It's not like he was a forward that got moved. He's a shooting guard.
Yeah, I mean, he plays small forward, but like Juan Hernangomez, I would assume is more of a power forward than Okogie when they're on the court together. Like it just doesn't make that much sense. But FanDuel's going to do whatever FanDuel wants to. So we can move to power forward. Let us know who you're looking at here. I feel like there's two very clear cash options, like specifically on DraftKings, but go ahead.
Definitely I'm looking at Al Horford. He's gotten real cheap, and we'll have Harris and Simmons out, so he's definitely going to have to play a little more minutes. And I love a revenge game, so he's got Atlanta, and they're just awful at defense. So I know you just love revenge games too. Always works out.
My favorite thing.
So definitely looking at Al Horford just for the cheap. He'll probably be one of my cash plays tonight. But other than that, looking that cheap. If Kevin Love, I think he's still questionable. If he gets ruled out, Nance is in play, but he's getting up there in price where he's not a must play anymore. I like how sites actually price people correctly. So, and Naz Reid, he's been doing great. He had a bad game. Last game, I mean, that's Denver, so you're not going to expect a huge game from him. He got into foul trouble, so he only played 22 minutes. So he's another play I love. Hopefully, recency bias hasn't been too bad this year, where people just tank his ownership just because he had one bad game. I mean, he still had 22 points, but I could see him having a little less ownership. And he's 5'8" on DraftKings. I haven't checked FanDuel. What is he? 5K on FanDuel. So I'm sure he'll have ownership definitely against FanDuel. Even with Russell back, that shouldn't affect him too much. As long as Cat's out, then I love that play. He's been extremely efficient. So that's probably another cash I'm looking. Rui Hachimura is definitely an interesting play. I love power forwards against Milwaukee, and he's definitely going to have to score a little more than he normally does. 5'7", definitely not a cash play, but again, I just love looking at GPP plays because that's where I'm looking right now. And I'm probably going to fade Giannis. He's extremely efficient, so he could drop 30, 35 fantasy points in the first quarter. Just again, he could have a double-double in the first quarter. We've seen that. We've definitely seen 8, 9 rebounds from him. And against Washington, bad rebounding team, Thomas Bryant's out. So there's really not much inside that's going to be stopping Giannis. I love betting on Milwaukee tonight. Just definitely the spread. Spread full game, spread first half. I love them tonight. So blowout's a little risky, so I'm probably fading Giannis. Just get some leverage. But I could definitely see him. If somehow this game stays close, Giannis is going to drop like 80 fantasy points. So definitely interested looking at a little stack if somehow this game stays close, but I don't see it staying close. But if you want to get a little risky in GPPs, you could definitely stack this game with Giannis and Rui, and then going Middleton, maybe Beal. Beal will have to drop 40 or 50 points for this to stay in. So if I'm playing Giannis, I'm definitely going to play some Wizards tonight. And that's probably my main guys I'm looking at. Glenn Robinson's definitely interesting for Philly. Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris is out. He got 20 minutes last game, so he'll probably see 20 to 25 minutes again. And especially against Atlanta, who's just awful at defense. So he could definitely be a play tonight as well. Those are probably it for me.
Yeah, I think honestly, Giannis is a cash play. Al Horford and Giannis are the two that are going to get ownership here, as they should. If Tobias Harris happens to play tonight, which personally I don't think is that likely, but if he does happen to play, I don't think you have to go Al Horford anymore. We saw that kind of in his last game, and Horford still struggled. It just seems like he hasn't taken well to the new bench role. So more or less, if Horford is starting, he should be used in all leagues. If he's not, you probably don't have to use him, even in cash. Giannis is the other cash play. Outside of that, I actually think you're going to be wrong on the Naz Reid ownership. I don't think he's going to get much because Brandon Clark is essentially the same price on both slates or both sites. And I can't imagine people playing Naz Reid over Brandon Clark unless they're doing it for leverage. Clark is going to have to play 30 plus minutes with Jaren Jackson Jr. out. I believe he played 30 plus in his last game. He dropped almost 40 fantasy points, and he's been dominant the entire season on a per minute basis. So I actually feel like he's kind of going a little overlooked compared to what he should. Besides that, you can use guys that we talked about at small forward here. I don't need to go over everyone again. Julius Randle always comes with upside, and he gets a plus matchup against Houston, so I don't really mind that. I think that is likely where I'm going to end. I will say I do like Naz Reid a lot in tournaments, just with more people probably going at Clark. And Al Horford and Giannis at the moment are going to take up so much ownership that most everyone else is going to be at least relatively low owned. Any consideration to players traveling hours before the game and probably not getting a true workout? I mean, I know some people get worried about that kind of thing. I don't. They're NBA players. They don't really need to warm up very much, honestly.
Yeah.
Plus, they're going to prior to the game, so I don't really think it's gonna take off too much from what they're doing. It really wouldn't worry me too much, especially not avoiding players. Like singularly,
Yeah, they could
for
start a little
DFS.
slow, but
Yeah,
they could start a little slow, but I don't really.
I feel like
don't
that
really
would
look at it too
probably
much.
it'd probably affect betting more than it would DFS because
Yeah.
you're kind of just like, if you want to bet on a team that the team isn't going to gel right away because people are going to be a little slow, I feel like that makes more sense than just trying to pick out individual players that won't start hot.
Yeah, if you want to get like a first quarter bet on something, that's where you could get an edge.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any problems with that, really. So moving on to center, who do you have here?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of guys I like. I usually like a lot of centers. If you can see a good matchup, I usually like to throw them in the center and utility. Usually people don't do that, so I get my second center at like 5% ownership. So I'll get my Joel Embiid exposure in cash and GPPs. He's only 9.5, and you're getting it without Simmons and 90% sure without Harris. So we could see Embiid breaking the slate for 70 plus points. So I'm definitely getting exposure to him, maybe like a 30-20 game. The ceiling, we could see a huge game out of him. So I'm definitely locking him in all formats. He's 9.5 on DK, 10K on FanDuel. So you could get a little weird. I don't like FanDuel as much because you only get one center, and I always love at least 3 or 4 centers on the slate, especially when you see a bunch with good matchups. Vucevic is a little too expensive for me. I know he's going against Brooklyn, but at 9.1, I probably won't play him. Rudy Gobert is playing Phoenix, the Suns. Ayton's just really bad at defense, so I usually like targeting him. He's questionable. I like the matchup more if Ayton plays, just because they can expose him more with Gobert. So those are the guys I'm looking to pay up for. I'm definitely not playing Drummond at 8.1. Miami's really good against centers, and Drummond just has not gelled with Cleveland. I think, they just played him last game, and Drummond, without Kevin Love, still couldn't do anything. I think he had like 6 points and 6 rebounds for 80 to 90% of the game. And yeah, he finished with that. So I'm definitely not playing Drummond at that price at all. I just don't see any path for him getting 40 plus points, maybe 45 plus points. He's a good under for Monkey Knife Fight. I think he's 38. So I definitely continue going under on him. I know he started at 40, but his price is going way down. You can also play power forwards at center. So obviously I like some of those guys. And if you want to go a little crazy, since Thomas Bryant's out, that opens up Jan Mahimi and Mo Wagner. So if you want to get a little crazy get a 1%, 2% on guy and spend up other places, I like taking a chance on either Wagner or Jan, depending on how much salary you have left. So those are probably the main guys I'm looking at. Valanciunas is also another one. He's a great points per minute guy. And with Jaren Jackson out, he's definitely going to boost tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it for the most part. David, this will be on replay as soon as we get done. So we're going to finish up center, and then you'll be able to go back and rewatch the beginning where we go over our guards and small forward plays. At center, I mean, it's tough to know exactly where all the ownership's going to go, but I would assume Joel Embiid gets the majority of it. Adebayo and Gobert could steal a little bit. Brandon Clark is also center eligible, so feel free to use him here along with Al Horford, who we talked about. I do like Porzingis, and I actually like Vucevic at 9,100, but only in tournaments. The matchup's just really good. He's been playing extremely well. I have no problems with Valanciunas. You might be able to take a shot on Gorgie Dang as well. He should play a few more minutes. I would assume around 20, maybe. That's what he played. He played 21 in his last game. He dropped to over 30 as well. He's super cheap, so that's a solid tournament option. Outside of that, Robin Lopez is going to have to play for Brook, and he's only 3K. So if he gets 20 to 25 minutes, similarly to George Hill, I think it makes sense to at least give him a look. And then Montrezl Harrell and PJ Tucker are two undersized centers who make solid tournament options just because of the matchups and their prices. I think that's about it for what I'm looking at center. I'm finally off DeAndre Jordan. It looks like they're going to cut back his minutes a little bit, and he's now priced himself up. So if he's not playing big minutes, I don't really want him that much anymore. But we did have a good run with him. So I think that's pretty much all the players that we're looking at. As always, if you want Joey's Monkey Knife Fight plays, we talk all day through Discord where there's prize picks plays. We go over DFS, everything pretty much. You can get our DFS package, the DFS or the Discord package. That package also comes with MVP, which gets all of our core plays as well. If you're just looking to spend a little bit less, and you can get mine and Ben's new player pool, which comes with final thoughts and the game theory article. That's on the site as our premium content package. It's only $9.99 a month. So if you do not have any of those three, I would go highly recommend them just to get kind of a feel for what we're doing at Karma. I'm sure everyone watching this already knows. But that's pretty much what we got for today. I believe Ben will be back tomorrow. I won't be on as it's Tuesdays and I get off on Tuesdays. But go ahead and watch Ben tomorrow. He'll go over the slate. I think it's about 6 games, so should be big enough for a stream. And he'll see you then.